Greetings, this is Bill Kleitz with Building Bridges Ministries. I'd like to share on a topic that's been on my heart for a while: anger. Anger. There's a lot today that we can be angry about. Politicians, politics, how things are going as far as the world is concerned. Anger about racial things. We can see how white people, which you can see I'm a white person, not white as the wall back there, but I'm basically considered a Caucasian white person. But yet we're being blamed for everything. We're even being blamed for the past of slavery. When, if you look at true history, now I don't want to get into all this, that blacks, even they are the ones that sold themselves to the white man, the Dutch and things like that, slave ships. Their kings and leaders and chiefs sold them, their people, for trinkets, for booze, for guns, for all kinds of sorts of things, for power, because it gave them power. But yet and I can go into history on that, and it's sad how it's always the white man. And I'm not a racial person. I get along and love all folk. But yet it's sad to see how we as white people are being blamed, being mocked, we get cursed at, like Black Lives Matter is nothing but a hate group. Oh, there's some nice people in there, I guess. But when you see what when they're demonstrating, they don't act nice. And they're always trying to blame somebody else for their own sins. But nonetheless, look at all the criminal activity that go on. Black kills black. It's not the white man that's killing them. Okay, anyways, I didn't want to get into that. But you see what I'm saying? Hate. Anger. Anger. And yes, rightly so. Some things we need to be angry about. When police do things wrong, I know as a teenager, living up in Philadelphia, I was treated wrong by some black people, or yes, they were black policemen, even white policemen, police period. Because they looked at you as a hoodlum, and yet they acted like you did. You didn't know what if they were a gangster, if they were a policeman. They acted all the same, and they treated you bad. Not all of them, but I have to admit, some of them did treat you wrong, and they did not, when nobody was looking, they do some things to you that they shouldn't have been doing. So yes, there are some bad cops, but on the whole, no. To go around killing white cops just because you hate white people, and that's what the bottom line is, that's hate. So we can be angry about things, but how do we handle our anger? How about marriage? People sometimes, when there's difficulties in their lives, a lot of times marriages break up because there's difficulties. Finances is one of the main things about divorce. How about when you lose a loved one or something doesn't go your way? You start blaming one another. Before you know it, the family unit is being broken down, and you get divorces or you get separated, then eventually a divorce because of anger. Then there's also what the world is trying to do to the Christian church. America was a Christian nation at one time. I can't say that no more. At one time they were. 8 years ago we were still considered a Christian nation. But yet today we see under this administration they have flip-flopped and turned toward Islam. And Islam has taken a stronghold in America. Don't kid yourself, my friends. Yes, there's some nice Muslims. I know, I've met them, I've communicated with them. But yet I'm telling you, if Islam would really take stronghold in America, every Muslim would go their way. They would not go toward the American way, which, well, sad to say, American way is not the American way no more. You don't know who is American anymore. So you see, you get angry about that. So anger is happening today. Anger is a natural impulse. It's a desire. It's a disposition. It's the opposite of pleasure. It's the opposite of going the right way. So we get angry. We get angry when people, our neighbor, tries to treat us wrong when we're trying to treat them right. Okay. But today you see people don't open up their doors no more. Now I understand because there's thieves no more. You don't know who to trust no more. So anger starts to build up. And the sad thing is, if you watch the boob tube too much, if you watch the news, now what I mean by the boob tube is not like old cowboy shows or shows that are, some moral to it. The old 50, 40, 30s type of movies, like I think it's called TNC. It has the old movies on. I believe that's what it was called. TMC out of California, I believe. But it's all the old movies. But you see, the movies today is dealing with perversion, is dealing with a divorce. Every time you see a woman committing adultery or a man committing adultery, so if you feed your mind and your soul on that, eventually it's going to, you're sowing seeds of the devil's thoughts into your mind, and eventually when something doesn't go well in your home, you're going to start fighting against one another. Domestic violence. I've taken courses on domestic violence. What happens when, even in a football game, you're for that, your husband's for this game, this person, or your wife's for that person, or you're cheering and your game, the game that, or excuse me, the game that you're hoping would win, the team that you're hoping to win does not win, you get angry. Domestic violence has happened after that. Policemen have to be called to people's homes because the wife is beating up on the man and the man's beating up on the wife because they're taking out their frustrations on one another. Anger. Disappointments can bring anger. So how do we deal with anger? Let's look at some scriptures here. Proverbs 19:11 says, the discretion of a man deferreth his anger, or delays his anger, and it is his glory to pass over a transgression. In other words, there are some things you just need to deal with yourself. Stop when you are angry. Don't spew out your thoughts. Don't spew out your feelings toward that person that's next to you, because what are they going to eventually do? They're going to react to what you're doing. And maybe they might not react, but eventually they will react, and then you got a fight going on. So you need to get a hold of yourself. Some things are not worth fighting over, like a football game, a baseball game. Some things are you just let it go. You watch the game, don't get caught up in it. They lost, but get a hold of your feelings and your emotions. Defer, discretion. You see, discretion. Discretion is your freedom to judge right and wrong. Discretion is well, let me look at that. I have that word here written down somewhere. I just wanted to, well, I just already described some of it. But in Proverbs 3:11, it says it's cautious, it's reserved. So you be cautious. You don't spew out all your thoughts. So anger, you got to deal with yourself. Get a hold of your emotions and your feelings. Do not allow yourself to get all caught up in something. This is what this verse is saying. Delay so that you can deal with your anger. Here's another one. Proverbs 18:14. Proverbs 18:14 says this: the spirit of a man will sustain his infirmities, but a wounded spirit who can bear? When a spirit is wounded through anger or hurt, you're going to find yourself all troubled. And when you start rotating those feelings inside, you don't get a hold of your own spirit. You don't have discretion. You don't have cautiousness. You let everything fly out. And before you know it, you're angry at one another in a family relationship. You're angry at politics. You see black and white people, some white people, well, sad to say it hasn't been white people previously. It's been most black people going around killing policemen because they're white. Yet they killed another policeman who was black, left him without his family grieving, left them without them being grieving now, just because of his hate. Anger, we got to get a hold of ourselves, delay